So you've just bought your seed potatoes, you've got them home and you're wondering, how do I store them now? What's all this chitting about and when do I plant them? Well, those are the things we're going to be covering in today's video. I've got in here all my potato varieties for this year, and I've chosen a few favourites as well as a few new varieties. But once you get your seed potatoes, the last thing you want to do is to treat them like the supermarket potato that you buy to eat. You know, we're supposed to store them somewhere cool and dark. And, you know, as a beginner, you might think that's what you've got to do because that's how potatoes like to be stored. Don't do it. Don't put them in the dark. The first thing you want to do is to get them out, check over your potatoes, make sure they're nice and healthy, have a look, see if you've got any that are going mouldy or just look a little bit, not sure about that. If it's mouldy, it might spread to the other one, so just chuck it. Make sure they're all happy and healthy. If you've got any issues, maybe pop back and swap them for a better bag. So once you know all of your potatoes are healthy and they're going to grow well for you, it's time to store them before we grow them. So here in the UK at the minute, it's the end of February going into March, and soon, very soon, we will be planting our potatoes. But until then, what we can do is a process called chitting. So what is chitting and why do we do it? Chitting is a process where you store your seed potatoes in a bright, sunny environment that's frost-free and away from rodents that might eat them, as a way of growing little shoots that are called chits. And these are little small stubby green shoots that will grow to about 1 inch long in the time that it takes for you to then plant them. And why do we do it? Well, it's said to give your potatoes a bit of a head start when you plant them, because this little green shoot is the growing tip that will come up above the surface of the soil and create lots of foliage. So if you're giving your potatoes a little head start, then you might gain a bit of extra time and get a better harvest earlier on. Now, there's different types of potatoes. Obviously, we have our first earlies, which we plant around March and harvest around late June. You've then got your second earlies that you'd plant in April and harvest at the end of June, but more July, it's middle of July time. And then you've got your main crops, which you harvest from anywhere between late August and into October. And with the main crops, chitting isn't really a process that benefits them as much. It really does benefit the first earlies and your second earlies, although the jury's out there really how much difference this process makes. But in my mind, you might as well do it, because you don't want to store your potatoes in the dark, because if you do that, well, we've all been there when you've left your your own potatoes at home in the cupboard for too long. You forget about them for like a month and then they start growing those tentacles and start to look really, really creepy. We don't want that. If you're watching this video and you've realised that's now what you've got with your seed potatoes, it's okay, the potato's still fine. What I do is just rub it off with your thumb and then plant it as it is. It'll be absolutely fine, but just try and store them in somewhere nice and bright. And a good way of doing this, of starting off your chits, is to get an egg box. And it's a great way of keeping your potatoes upright, because it's like a little, you know, like a little seat for it to sit in. So here I've got Lady Crystal, which is a first early variety. So these are going to be the first potatoes that I eat this year. I've never grown them before, but they're highly rated and I'm going to give it a go. You can actually see that the chits have already started because I've kept them somewhere nice and bright. So these short little stubby tips are what you're looking for. And these are also known as the eyes of your potato. And when you plant them, they actually want to be pointing upwards, not downwards. Now, you don't have to use egg boxes if you don't have any at home. You can just use a little cardboard box, or you might come up with your own little method. But you might also need a pen, and all you're going to do is label your egg box. The Lady C, I will put. And then it's just a case of popping your potatoes in their little seats. These are actually incredibly large seed potatoes. Pop you there. And Lady Crystal can also go there. And that's basically it. You then just want to place this somewhere nice and sunny. So I've also got another 3, and this one's called Java. There we go. Write a little note for myself. And again, just make sure that the eyes are all facing upwards. Now, Java is a variety that I discovered last year. It's a cross between the Sarpo Mira and another one whose name suddenly escapes me. But it grew really, really well in my containers, and I'm going to try it again. Unfortunately, I didn't really have time to do much of a reveal on these because I had a busy year last year. Now, this one here is Charlotte, which is one of my absolute favourites. It's a really nice second early variety that grows incredibly well, and it's just one I'll never not grow because it just tastes so delicious. There we are. And then Cara is one that's become a favourite over the last 4 years or so. It grows well in containers. It's very, very disease resistant. This one's a main crop, and it's fantastic for all-round cooking. So you can mash it, you can make chips with it, you can do pretty much anything with it. But that one's quite a floury potato. Now, pink fir apple is an interesting one. If you've not grown it before, it's a main crop. It's quite long and knobbly. It's got a really, really interesting flavour. It's quite nutty and just waxy and delicious. But it's a main crop that stores incredibly well. And for that reason, the chits that you grow on these are never very big because it's a main crop. It's not going to really start growing. And it's just, because it stores so well, it just doesn't really want to shoot. So it's one of my favourites. I've not grown it for a couple of years, so I'm quite excited to have this again this year. Pink fir, and it's a heritage variety as well, so it's very old-fashioned. Tastes great in a curry, they say, and I have done that before. You know, it doesn't fall apart. It's quite strong. As you can see, they're quite tall and wobbly. Now, the last one I'm going to put in here is called Golden Wonder. I don't know if you have this one in the States, let me know. But over here we've got a brand of crisps that are made by a company called Golden Wonder because they use the Golden Wonder potato to make them. And when I say crisps, I mean chips over in America, snacking crunchy crisps that I'm quite addicted to. Well, I'm going to have a go at growing my own crisps. Well, not quite. Growing the potatoes to make my own crisps with the Golden Wonder potato. Now, I went to Potato Day. That's where I get all of my seed potatoes from. It's an event that's held by Nottingham Organic Gardeners every year, and it's a great way of getting a mixture of seed potatoes very cheaply. And you're not limited to buy, you know, a kilogram of one variety. So it means you get to try lots of different types, and on the day you can get loads of advice, and it's just a really great day for the community. And I learnt that the Golden Wonder potato is one that nobody really grows because it doesn't make a great potato for anything else other than making crisps. It's incredibly dry, very floury, and it's just not been known to do very well in the cooking process. But if you fry it and turn it into a crisp, that's where it's at. So one of my goals this year is to make some crisps, and I'm really excited for that. I've only got 2, so fingers crossed they will grow okay. So here they all are, all laid out in their little trays. Now, the main important thing that you do want to do is to be very careful, because if you drop them and they all get muddled up, you're not really going to know which variety is which anymore. So just be careful if you've got to move them from your shed to your home. Use something like a nice tub to put them into, and then you can transport them nice and safely. And then they'll stay like that until we plant them, which leads me on to when do we plant our potatoes. Now, It can vary depending on what variety you're growing. If it's a first early, you can plant those much sooner than your main crops, for instance, because you're going to be harvesting them a lot earlier. If you're growing a first early, such as your Lady Crystal, your Rocket, your Javelin, you can plant those in March. Whereas my second earlies and main crop, I will plant those typically around the second week of April. Quite often Easter tends to fall around that time, and it's a good time to make use of that long weekend to get your potatoes in. So yes, I tend to plant my first earlies in March and my second earlies and main crops in April. And if you haven't already seen, I've got a video, a very popular video, all about how I grow my potatoes in containers, which I'll be doing again this year. I hope that helps you. Please let me know what varieties you're growing this year. I look forward to reading all of your comments. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.